In 1570, the Koga clan was approached by a local daimyo by the name of Dokaku Yoshitaka. Dokaku had an idea. He wanted to assassinate the most powerful man in all of Japan, the ruthless Oda Nobunaga. You see, the Koga clan had become famous across Japan for its training of ninja, and at the time, Oda Nobunaga was at the height of his campaign to consolidate Japan under his leadership, and he was unstoppable. Perhaps one of these famed ninja from the Koga clan could be the one to finally take him out. The Koga clan agreed, and they chose one of their best ninja for the job, a well-trained sniper named Sugitani Zenjubo. So the plan was set in motion. Sugitani learned that Oda Nobunaga was on his way to Omi province, taking the Chigusa road in an attempt to avoid the more risky Tokaido road. So Sugitani arrived early, scouting the exit routes and laying in hiding. On May 19th, Nobunaga and his men arrived on Chigusa road as expected. Sugitani lied in wait, and when the moment was right, he took 2 consecutive shots with his rifle. But the bullets hit Nobunaga's collar armor, and he lived. Sugitani was forced to flee and go into hiding, and took refuge in Amadaji Temple in the surrounding Omi province. 4 years later, Isono Kazumasa, who owned the area surrounding the temple, learned of Sugitani's existence. Wanting to gain favor with Nobunaga, he apprehended him, handing him over to Nobunaga for punishment. What Nobunaga does next is chooses one of the most extreme cases of capital punishment known to history. Sugitani is buried up to his neck and slowly beheaded with a dull-aged bamboo blade over the course of several hours, some saying it even took several days.
Hey everybody, welcome to Japanese History for Everyone. So the other day, a friend of mine asked me, are ninjas real? And if you're wondering the same thing, the truth is, yes and no. Ninjas have become a part of popular culture, both in Japan and across the world. You can find stories about them in books, movies, TV, and graphic novels. But when you look at the history, the iconic image of the ninja that we know today is actually more fiction than it is fact. So today we're going to talk about ninjas and unpack the history from the myth and folklore that surrounds them.
In the time of the ninja were more commonly known as shinobi, which is an alternative reading of the kanji. The earliest use of the word shinobi to describe a specific type of person or profession existed somewhere in the 8th century, but may even go as far back as the 6th century. However, the shinobi that inspired the ninja that we know of today came into prominence during the Sengoku period, which, if you remember from the last video, was a period of civil war beginning in the 15th century and ending in the 17th century. It is during the Sengoku period when the Iga and Koga clans begin training a group of men for the specific purpose of becoming a shinobi. These men were not one-off mercenaries as they had been in the past, but full-on professionals, the kind that could be hired by the local daimyo to spy on and cause chaos among the rivals. And between 1485 and 1581, that's exactly what happens, leading to the shinobi becoming well-known across Japan. But it's important to point out that these shinobi were not the beloved ninjas that we know today. In fact, shinobi were often recruited from the lower classes, seen as unsavory, and generally were socially frowned upon by society, especially the samurai class, who saw them as their polar opposites. As one historian puts it, they operated in secret, trading money for the loss of honor and glory. You see, the samurai were operating on a strict code of honor known as the Bushido, but sometimes they needed to get something done that was forbidden by the Bushido. Enter the shinobi. The shinobi were able to do the less than honorable things that the samurai couldn't, and during a time of perpetual war, they were considered a necessity. So what were these dishonorable acts that the shinobi did for the daimyo that hired them? Well, they did a lot, but we can boil it down to 3 major categories. The first is espionage. The shinobi would travel in disguise to enemy territory, judge the situation of the enemy, and figure out their weak points. Often they made friends with the enemy, gaining their confidence, and then took what information they could back to the daimyo they served. The second is sabotage. The shinobi were known to sneak into enemy castles or enemy camps and set fire to them. But sometimes, they opted for more psychological warfare, including just plain confusing the enemy so that they would feel vulnerable. In one case, a shinobi infiltrated an enemy camp and in the middle of the night, stole a flag and moved it to a new location. The third and less often done was assassination. If a daimyo felt that a specific individual was a threat, they would hire shinobi to secretly infiltrate their castle or camp and murder them. But it's an assassination attempt that would change the course of history for these shinobi. And that's right, it's the assassination attempt of Oda Nobunaga. After not one, but 2 assassination attempts, Oda Nobunaga invades Iga province, wiping out all the major organized clans. Surviving ninja, mostly those trained by the Koga clan, then flee to Nobunaga's rival, Tokugawa Ieyasu, who takes them in as part of his army. It's there that they would play a role in many decisive battles. But once the war ends, the Tokugawa shogunate is formed and there's no longer a need for shinobi, so they mostly disappear.
So the truth is that the real-life ninja was much more similar to the 21st century imagery that we have of spies than it is to the somewhat magical, walking on walls and disappearing into thin air imagery that we have of ninjas in popular media today. But where did this imagery come from? Well, the popular imagery of the ninja developed somewhere in the Edo period, when stories passed down of the shinobi gradually became folklore, and many artists and kabuki playwriters reflected this folklore in their works throughout the 18th century. Since there's very little written about the ninja during the time that they existed, much of what we know about the ninja today is actually from that time period. Therefore, there's little proof other than hearsay to say that the ninja looked or acted in the way that we think they did. For instance, ninjutsu, the art of the ninja, was actually coined in the 1970s. And those black robes that we see them in, we can't say for sure that they wore them often, if at all. So I know what you may be asking right now. If the ninja didn't look like the way that we remember them, then what did they look like? Well, most of the time, they looked like everybody else. If you want to know why the ninja were so good at hiding, it's because they blended in. They hid in plain sight, gaining confidence of those around them, building friendships and forging bonds, only to then sneak in the night, burn down the castles, murder high-ranking officials, and on some occasions, move some flagpoles from one end of the camp to the other just to screw with people. So that's it for today. If you like this video, I'll be making more every 3 weeks. If you have any questions, please ask me, I'll be glad to answer them. And if you like the video, please press the like button, because likes make me happy. Stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.